Hail and well met, dear listener, to another tale of mortality. Before I speak of this tale, I must warn thee of the terrors which hath been writ of. Horrors of the flesh, be it mutation or gore, and soul horror follow, as does the depravity of apathy and the deprivation of the wilds on the human body. Hail and well met to the reader of this tale. This venture is titled The Plagued Dancer, and was transcribed by Venture's League scribe Fashtun al-Makara, they, as was recounted by numerous reports by mercenaries from the Manticore Headsfolk Company and the Mabar 6 venturing party. This transcript is written to the best memory and ability of the scribe. To all who read this record, be mindful of the horrors of the flesh and mutagenic, visceral, and soul forms, as well as the depravity of apathy and the deprivations of the wilds upon the human body. Hearken these words and remember them for all those that were, are, and shall be. The trench lines near the flame rift that were freshly dug were hot. The radiant heat from the burning Terran ether, Asenscia, made the dirt and sand warm to the touch. Every grain that got into the clothes was like being stung by an insect and having one's skin run against gravel. Water-treated hides from the local sheep mice lined the floors of the dugout. Wherever one stepped, they found themselves moving quickly. Staying in one place for too long would so heat the feet, blisters appeared in minutes. Every mercenary and venturer present lined their footwears outside with the esophageal sacs of the sheep mouse, whose diet consisted of the rough petrus shrubs, a plant lethal to most every other beast due to its barbs. The meridian sun bore down on them hard during that constellari. They were all completely enamored with tiny agonies as they felt every bead of sweat burn away on their skin, darkening them. Reprieve from the sun came not from hiding underground, for the heart fire rift connected to the flame rift and made every part of the ground swelteringly hot. Water was more valuable than any precious metal roused from the mines. Some could not handle the heat, and so died of dehydration without their fellows noticing until the corpses slumped over, all the moisture from their bodies evaporated. It was a cruel death, but one that was easy to clean up. Due to the heat mixing with that of the humors and fires of the organs, humors boiled away before they could expand. For days, the Manticore Headsfolk Company, under the command of Ashim Rabula, him, a homunculus human, and the Mabar 6 venturing company, consisting of the thick human Hran ibn Utul ibn Shofra of Dansa, him, the progenitus human Arda of Clamavia, her, the artifician human Eo of Hofora, them, the thick human Diona di Marzano of Neapolis, her, and the orc human Raquel the Star Charter of Darkim, her. Watch the top, awaiting whatever foe they may find. They were all hired to supplement the lost jihadists who lost their lives dearly to defy an onslaught of fire spirits from breaking the line. Every day the names of the dead crusaders were read aloud during prayers as a reminder of those who came before. All 87 persons burned to death, incinerated and melted, and turned into ever-smoking cadavers were remembered. Some, such as Arda, had taken to reciting every single name until she was able to list them by heart. The weight of whom they may have been bore heavily upon them. Into the annals of war the dead would be put into, a means of keeping the memory alive for their loved ones and the persons who came after. The tension of the oncoming storm was always great. There would be many horrors to come from the rift, a mere 2 miles away. The question was what? At night, no torches were needed, for the mantic glow of fire illuminated the black sky like dawn. Prayers to the Praise be unto the gods, for the immortals giveth and take agony and bounty. God Rockbull and immortal night were espoused daily. Even with blankets wrapped around their heads, the assembled soldiers and warriors could see the fires when they closed their eyes. Sleep was thusly another commodity that was bartered like silver coins. An hour watch extended here or there, a few minutes owed, so a head dunk in the water pitcher could be done, or a swift punch to the temple to knock a person out so the fire didn't wake them was the economy on the front. The Venturers were resplendent in many holy wards, and occult graffiti vigilantly defied the fire. A call to arms was shouted by Diona. She called for every soldier to ready themselves. Arrows were readied and side weapons drawn and placed on the top of the wall for easy reach. All at once the trench line was roused, ready for war. A lone figure clad in beige bandages walked towards them. They stumbled every few steps as they drew closer. The stranger looked to be some form of primogenitus human, wearing simple clothes, many bandages, and a mask of copper. Black patches of hair emerged from their pitted scalp. Raquel asked for the stranger's name. Some 200 paces away from the line, the figure stopped, as Raquel had ready an alchemical potion to toss over the top. The figure stood there gently, getting up upon one knee, and stuck out their leg. The being did not say a word as they shifted their legs in a concentric circle, drawing a rim in the sand. To the tune of an unheard melody, the bandaged person began dancing. Everyone on the line watched in amazement or looked in every direction for a flanking force. They hopped on one leg and flipped themselves about before kicking up sand with grateful contortions of the hip that sent the leg flying up in their air. The more they watched, the less human the movement seemed. It was like a string puppet being guided by jerks. All sense of mesmerization was replaced by horror. It remained silent. When an arrow was let go at it, the being did not stop dancing. Ears shouted the plain, asking for a name or its business. The thing merely continued hopping for some time. The Nuban took a sling and readied an oxidized seed shot. The whir of the sling matched the flip of the dancer. A whoosh! The shot whizzed past the dancer. 3 persons were to keep guard at all times on the thing in addition to the sentries. 1 to watch the dancer, another to watch the dancer and the watcher, and a third to watch the vigilants themselves. Every hour or so, a venturer would inspect the trio and the dancing thing. Winds kicked up sand, and yet still its jerky movements continued. The Mabar 6 racked their heads about the creature and asked every mercenary in the company what they know about the thing or what it may be. No voice had an answer to the question. Its unusual ritual continued for a few hours more. There was only one of 2 things this entity could be. Undeath would explain its apathy towards the missiles loosed earlier, as well as the rigid motions connected by smooth contortions. Furthermore, such would explain its lack of slumber or food or speech. The second option was more horrifying to both companion and venturer: immortality. Should a spirit be before them, a madness would soon descend upon them. And madness did descend. The incessant silent dancing of the thing, night and day, coupled with the brain-frying heat and the fear of a horde of flaming terrors, racked the soul. Arrows were loosed at it, yet it did not stop dancing and dodged every shot released by a keen-eyed archer. A mercenary ran over the top and steadied himself. The smell of his feet burning on the sand was carried on the midday breeze. They shook with barely contained agony as they aimed and let the arrow fly from the string. Even at 60 feet away, the arrow did not hit its target. The soldier shouted in frustration and ran back. The soles of the leather shoes were burned off, and sand had leached onto the skin, causing them to no longer be able to walk for a time. As prayers and holy days were observed, the dancer intensified the movements and conjured a disgraceful wind over the trench. It was filled with burning sand and took hours to clear. When the last grain was shoved over the top, the dancer had vanished. The Mabar Six's astrologist looked to the stars and charted the path of stars with Haran. For several days the pair watched the sky and consulted almanacs and occult devices. During this period, a cold sweat had slowly overtaken the trench line. It began with soldiers feeling their blood run cool, sporadically, like the chills of fear coursing through their nerves. The soldier who ran across the sands had it the worse. They were stripped naked and left to bake in the sun. So cold was he. Each breath was wet and heavy, even as it reached the air. Soon, more soldiers came down with the chills. Every afflicted person was sent to the outermost portion of the line to stand guard. Bread and water was given by a donkey whose fur was scrubbed clean with lye and vinegar. The defenders thought themselves safe for a time until a cool miasma ran over the whole line. Soon all were shivering or disabled from the cold. Their fingers, toes, ears, and noses began turning blue, then purple, then black, as frostbite began setting in. Up and down the trench, everyone was naked or nearly naked. Half-tongue pleas carried on the wind to whatever may help. In a matter of a week or so, they would all die. They knew it. Only a hawk carrying a message was their last salvation. The fates scried ill. An alignment of the gibbous star with the passing of the Dacrian moon would infect many with the disease. Every soldier started to wither and plead for mercy. Every venturer rallied their comrades daily, for this was the beginning of an end, if hearts did not stand resolute. Many of the mercenaries cried out in agony and whimpered softly as insanity brought on by the ravages of miasma, trepidation about charges, and the possibility they would die became very real. Some of the mercenaries died, frozen in place. Those cadavers were stripped of all useful gear and buried hastily to prevent the carrion beasts from swarming the trench. Raquel, missing several toes and half an ear, patrolled the ditch, standing up soldiers who laid or sat down. Her sniffles did not stop the growl in her throat to stand and keep tall. 55 mercenaries died from the chills. Whenever Raquel made her rounds, she found more and more did not listen, for they were haggard and angry at their immortals for not protecting them or near death. The sounds of roaring flames coming towards the line flared up. All at once the Manticore Headsfolk Company's remaining soldiers looked over the top. A horn of battle sounded by ear rallied the group. A swarm of mutated, possessed, oryx giraffes ran towards the line. Their flesh was scorched black and peeling off like ash as they thrashed wildly. Their eyes were black as coal. Their horns, too, were blackened into a dark midnight color. The spirits within them contorted their bodies so as to be the walking skeletal pyres ready to crumble. Ashim ordered the release of arrows into the beast's legs. Diona ran over the top and splashed the ground with a heavy pitcher of water. She let out a yelp as the creatures drew near, each gate at least 2 of the humans. O'Toole picked up his war axe and charged across the blistering sands. One of the mutants' long neck curled down, unleashing a torrent of flame onto Diona. She howled in pain and nearly stopped as her bare skin turned black and boiled in a yellow-white mess of bubbling viscera. The herd followed closely behind, catching up to the venturer. Despite the pain, she threw the pitcher back, bashing the beast's head and driving it off course. O'Toole and Diona clapped hands together as they passed each other. As Diona rolled roughly onto the sand and shrieked in pain from the sand, entering her open wound and the fall dislocating a foot, O'Toole leapt mightily and broke the blade of his axe onto the head of the giraffe oryx. No sooner than when its skull split open, a gush of flame lashed out at him as the spirit within fluttered back to the flame rift. O'Toole shouted in surprise and triumph before turning and hastily running back to the line. He could feel the warmth of the herd getting closer and closer. Arrows flew past him into the mutants. The venturer took a quick glance over his shoulder. A rampaging herd of beasts, wreathed in fire and stuck with burning arrows, continued their relentless pursuit and now wildly spat flames at the trench line. Some mercenaries fell, their bodies falling limp after seconds of agony, as a glob of hurled flame pierced their naked bodies and ate through them until the mass ruptured their organs. O'Toole jumped over the line some 10 feet and landed on the other side. He brandished his axe and readied himself for what was to come. In the trench, the Manticore Headfolk Company slowly launched arrows at the herd. Sickness took their toll, but did not completely break the will to fight. Some went mad there and went over the top to greet the immortal flames, knowing it would be some warmth. Their blood boiled and their organs burst before all the skin, bone, and hair on them turned to ash. The arrows did not land, nor did the line of water halt them. They were maddened vessels for immortals who wanted to kill them all. The venturers shouted at the top of their lungs to the trench line, "Under the hides!" The few who heard the repeated commands shuffled under the treated sheep-mouse skins, unaware of what was to happen. Arda had seen it first. The way the beasts burned so quickly they were becoming skeletons. Bones under such high heat become brittle, and without flesh to connect them, their height would bring the full force of air down upon them like a crumbling funeral pyre. In moments, the sound of snapping bone and dust overpowered the cackle of heat. The venturers and some soldiers exhaled deeply when they felt the bones fall on them and douse them in flame. Were it not for the hides, they would be burning like the poor souls who were too slow from sickness. The lot of them were sweating profusely under the weight of burning bones. Shards pierced through the hides, letting extra heat in. Any punctured flesh was cauterized the moment the splinter hit it. O'Toole saw the beasts rush to the line. With a prayer, he lifted his axe and ready to blow. The second the beast stepped into the trenches, all at once the bones crumbled and the spirits flew into the air back to their home. Ghastly screams filled the trench line from mercenaries unable to slip on protection. They flailed as the bones pictured their bodies like ash upon the wall. Then the residual fire scorched away the shadow of their presence. O'Toole jumped in without hesitation and tried patting down the burning soldiers to find their flesh peeling off in slick clumps. They were locked in agony from the persistent fire. On instinct, O'Toole cleaved every warrior's head off, or in twain to end their suffering. It was better to deliver one to their gods than for a life suffering with such a wound. The lone venturer soon found himself joined by Arda, who grabbed his axe and held him close before he swung into a dead mercenary. She dragged him out of the trench before jumping in and searching for survivors. Alone, she hauled up at least a dozen or more mercenaries. Every eye pulled up, looked over the trench for the next assault. When the fire died and the corpses could be buried, the sickened, scorched, and wounded band numbered 91 out of the original 314 who manned the trench. During the night when nobody watched them, some wandered towards the rift, never to be seen again. A few more died of the ailment before it passed. A death happened from a soldier so tired when they finally closed their eyes, they never opened them again. 91 became 84. The day before, a letter arrived that the trench was to be abandoned and its stretch flooded by engineers from the Meridian Caliphate. A lone figure walked from the rift towards them. The dancer returned. It did not stop this time, but kept walking. Arrows pierced its body, yet it did not stop. Blood ran from the wounds and was drunk deep by the sands. As it drew closer, the mask on its face became clearer. An old iron plague mask, polished bright save for the edges. The pallid thing walked closer and closer. The line dare not go over the top for fear of what may come. The Mabar Six screamed and hurled over the top, ready to sell their lives so the Manticore Headsfolk Company could escape with their lives and what was left of sanity. In the blink, it was gone, and then the flame rift roared. Transcription ends. The Archivus Venturis has no other records concerning this unnamed stretch of the line against the flame rift, nor of the diseased entity that brought about the chilling sickness. Further investigations into the phenomenon of the plague dancer have been launched by the Venturers League and other forces assigned to it, and the reigning monarchs of the region. This entity, be it undead, mancer, or immortal, has been seen emerging from the sands of the flame rift before slowly dancing. Any contact with the being in a certain distance causes it to vanish without a trace or acknowledgement. Such a thing may be a collective phenomenon brought about by a hallucinatory miasma. The alignment of the Dacrian moon and gibbous star has been known to birth some hallucinations, particularly those who are already afflicted with something else like heat sickness. If an immortal of what faith it is from has not been uncovered. If it is undead, then it shall rot. If it is a mentor or champion of some heinous immortal, then it shall be slain. And to all who were, are, and shall be that read this account, glory to you. Tales of Mortality is a world-building podcast set in the world of Asenscia, created and owned by Bard over 18 years and counting. It is a fantasy world of horror and madness, a planet racked by mutation and magic, where humanity survives only through itself and the Spirit Indomitable against horrors natural and unnatural. The Worldbuilder, writer, producer, and artist of the thumbnail is Bard. Me! Below is a transcription of lore, as well as a link to my Instagram, Bard of the Mad Realm, where I share art related to Asenscia. Thank you all for listening to Tales of Mortality. May chaos reign. Bye-bye.